Hi, welcome to Wrokdown. I'm Wendy Stapleton. Our special guest tonight was discovered on New Faces. That's our 20th century version of Australian Idol. Well, he went on to become a pop idol, a TV compere, producer and DJ. Would you please welcome Ray Burgess?
Hi, Wendy.
Hey, Ray, how are you?
Wrokdown, finally, after all these years.
I know, after all these years.
I'm
we
excited.
get to see each other. I'm excited to have you. Let's start at the beginning.
Okay.
Born in Melbourne?
Yep, certainly. Clayton.
Yep.
Born in Oakley and grew up in Clayton, went to Clayton South Primary and Clayton Tech, which is no longer there. Closed another one. From working class parents and just a normal Clayton type childhood, I guess.
Musical family?
No, not at all. Both mum and dad were good singers, and lots of music on the radio, and loved all of the late 50s, early 60s stuff on the radio, and always had sort of like a burning passion for it. Had bands at 12 and 13, as you do with your mates down the street. Yeah. And you'd get those. The school band together, and you'd play at the local person's 21st, or well, they weren't 21st, it's probably 14th about those days. But you rehearsed a damn sight more than you played. but I suppose you sort of get it in a youth. A friend of mine had a youth club dance that he started when I was about 15 or 16, and we used to play there fairly regularly. And I remember that stage, those pop groups of the 60s started to come through, and we'd vacate the stage. You actually saw in person, the people that you were seeing on the telly, which was really exciting in those days.
And did you, you were playing in bands, as you said by then, did you sort of ever take anything away from those gigs, like that's I'm going to dress like this, or I'm going?
Well, the one thing, because I was stuck out the front, I was the lead singer all the time, and my guitar playing hasn't improved since, so you never got the chance. And we're there, and the Easy Beats were there, and Stevie raced on the stage, and she's so fine, tambourine, walking around there, and he threw it over his shoulder and ran over the other side of the stage and caught it behind his back.
And you tried it?
Perfected it.
So, okay, at what age then did you venture onto New Faces, or what made you go on New Faces?
Well, the band sort of got better and stayed together with the same guys in it, and we went to a talent quest at the Dorset Gardens Hotel, and we got to the finals, and I got sick, and we couldn't do it. I grew up with asthma and bronchitis and stuff, and I just got crook, and we couldn't do it. But by that stage, my father was working in the ward at the staging at ABC, and he had a bloke there who used to play regularly at the Dorset Gardens in a jazz band, and he saw it, and he said, that kid's good, you should get him on New Faces, and they'd done New Faces in the previous year. So I did that, and did reasonably well, and then a school teacher named Tony Scanlon that I'd had at school rang me and said, I'm putting together professional bands to work the pub circuit. Are you interested? And I thought, give it a go and have a listen. No, but I don't want to leave my mates. You got to play with the mates. Yeah. And went along and rehearsed at a lounge room at his house in Springvale, and the guys just started playing some Crosby, Stills and Nash stuff, and his harmonies just went, woo, and it was the most incredible thing that I'd ever heard. And so started in that, and that was the first professional band I was in.
How did you break it to your mates?
See ya.
Yeah.
And within months, I think we started playing at the White Horse, and then within months we got 7 nights a week with the Courtham circuit, and started at the Sandown Park pub.
And that's where you really get your act together, don't you?
And so you're playing every night. At that stage, I was working in a bank at Windsor, and I fell asleep on the desk. And the accountant sort of hauled me in and said, look, son, you're going to have to make up your mind whether you want to be a singer or a banker.
And you said, a banker.
No. And I think I was earning about $32 a week or something in the bank, and 100 in the band, and having a time. So I thought,
gee, haven't things changed?
Yeah, it's the other way around now. Should have been a banker, son.
No.
And that just led from one thing to another. The lead singer of Red Time was a girl named Linda, and she was John Farnham's first cousin. And so in those at that platform of those pub gigs, you had to back the floor show artists that came in each week. And John wasn't doing that circuit at that stage, but he did know what we were doing, and we saw quite a bit of him.
So John was already quite big
by that stage.
Yeah.
That was early 70s, so he'd already had the hits, and he was struggling because a lot of bands that he worked with, they didn't read, he'd have to go, he'd rehearse for 4 hours to do 45 minutes. And so we did a couple of shows with him and did the harmonies, the whole bit, and said, hey, this is good, this is a good fit. So we then started to work with him doing the warm-up part of the night and then back him up for his show. And we did that for about 2 years, I guess.
So did your recording career sort of go from that, from John's, you know, backing John? And
we never recorded in Red Time. And then I was working, I think with Red Time we're doing something with Ashton Circus in Melbourne. Oh, we backed Robin Jolly.
Oh.
And I met Robin's manager, who was a chap named Neville Kent, and came to me afterwards and said, why don't you go solo? Can't leave my mates.
Can't leave the band.
Same old thing again. And some months later did. And to start my singing career, I started with a straw boater and a striped jacket and touring Tasmania, singing all that sort of wonderful stuff. And one day Neville rang and said, I just heard this song on the radio. Come into the office, and it was Touch Me. And it was by an English girl band called Fancy. And he said, would you like to record it? And of course, I just said, I'll record anything. You know, you never dreamt that you'd go that far, but to have that little...
And it was a big hit, wasn't it?
It was a big hit. And it was actually interesting because we were working out of Johnny Young and Kevin Lewis's office in Richmond, because Neville was involved in Young Talent Time. And we went to them, because we never had a record label, never had a deal, never had anything, and they were doing their stuff through Festival in Sydney. And we played it to them, and they said, we think it'd be a hit. And this was December. And they said, but you haven't done it yet, you'll never get it out in time, you'll lose the whole Christmas market, it'll come out early New Year and it'll be lost in the throat. So Neville said, what do you want to do? And I said, let's do it anyway.
And you did.
And we did. Leslie Shaw produced it. We did it at TCS. Wow. And we got it straight to Festival, and it came back and it was released on the 16th of December in 1974, and everybody said, lost in the Christmas market. And I heard it first on the radio driving home on Christmas Eve.
Not in those red pants, it wasn't lost. We're going to take
no, there wasn't.
We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we have to tell everybody about the first coloured TV episode of Countdown and your red leather pants. We'll be back soon.
Wrokdown.
Welcome back to Wrokdown. My special guest tonight is Ray Burgess, and we're just having a good old laugh about Countdown, the first coloured...
Molly wouldn't like you laughing about Countdown.
I think Molly would have been having it. Was he there? Was he
He
there?
was always there. Well, he was the talent coordinator.
We have to describe your night. Touch Me.
It was just simple. I sang a song and went
Yes,
home.
but you had the tightest pair of red leather pants on.
Can't remember.
I thought you would remember. They were very, very tight.
They were very, very tight, yes.
But
yes.
you also had about 150 or 200
I had all these small people there, the fans.
young girls.
The fans, young girls.
And the song was called Touch Me, and of course
They did.
they did. Now, without putting too fine a point on it,
Nice coin of phrase.
I know, well, I had to actually wind it back a few times and have a look, because some young girls actually did have a go, didn't
They
they?
did have a go, yes. Yeah. But do you know what? In the heat of the moment, when you're actually doing live television and you're scared shitless because it's the big moment, you don't do anything about
The
it.
big moment.
Yeah.
Your pants were too tight.
They were.
To have a big moment.
I blamed the wardrobe. And actually, the truth of the matter is my mum was working in the wardrobe at the time.
Honestly, it was fabulous, and I just had to keep winding back going,
Did they? Did they do that?
they're really doing that.
And they were all about 12 or 14.
I know.
What were their parents thinking?
Lucky they were only that age, because if they were older, their hands would have been longer.
I could have been arrested.
By then, you'd actually played around quite a bit
Yeah.
too, so it wasn't as if you were really like thrust into the limelight. So you handled all of that pretty well.
Yeah, well, when I look back, and it's a long time to try and remember, but I think you just, you had your management team and your agencies and stuff booking you, and you just ploughed in. Here's the itinerary for the next 2 weeks, away you go. I left home and I came back, and my little sister
Had grown
5 years
up.
older. And it was you just did stuff. Here's where you go. That's what you do. And it was during one of those countdown shows that the ABC in Sydney came down and said, we want you to do an audition. For what? Oh, just do the audition. And that's when Flashez came about. That was one. And then 2 weeks later, they rang and said, we'd like you to move to Sydney
And you've got your own TV show.
Yeah. So, never even took any notice of the things. You just ploughed through and you just did them because there was another one around the corner you had to do.
It was wonderful, though, that you were able to, and I'm diversifying. Sometimes you sort of wonder where you're going musically, and if you've got that television thing,
well,
it's great, isn't it?
But it works for you and it doesn't. I mean, there was a time there when I had negotiations with the people who were running Countdown. They were thinking of having a permanent comp here, and at that stage I'd done more than anybody else. And Michael Shrimpton said, "You're a great fit for the show. Would you consider doing it full time?" And he said, "Wow, that'd be great." But it never actually came about. In the end, they changed their mind, and not that concerned me. I had Flashez doing that, but by being involved at that level with television, the radio stations then go, "Play your own record."
Yeah,
we're not playing. We're not promoting.
You can't
it.
be
You're on
this
TV.
and that.
Yeah,
That was,
exactly. And I had a wonderful first album, which Ross Wilson produced, and just the creme de la creme of musicians on that thing. And Greg McCainch wrote a song which I used called Sad Rock and Roll, and still one of my favourites. And that sat in the Sydney charts, and Flashez was done in Sydney, so I was out and about in the Sydney charts for maybe 6 weeks in the low 40s, 42, 44, 43. And the bastards wouldn't play it, because it was
because you
he can play it every day, let him play it himself.
Were you tempted to?
Did.
Oh, you did? Good on you. Yeah, no one else was going to.
That's why it was sitting in the 40s. But look,
that's frustrating.
It's business. That's how it works. And I mean, it's frustrating. But if you're in it and you're in it for a period of time and you're in it for the long run, you know how it works, and you've got to take the decisions that you've made and say, well, I'm going to make those work for me. And they did. I mean, working with Graham Kennedy on Blankety Blanks was fabulous because he was just the master of television. And one of the things I said about Graham is that he never let the cameras dictate where he would work. Normally got a floor manager who does that, and he would just cruise through from one to the other. And he always had an instinct to know where it was. He was amazing to watch.
And he tended to work with, you obviously got on very well with Graham, because the thing is that he tended to have his favourites that were always on. So the fact that you were on so much, obviously, you got on really well with him.
There was always in that show in Blankety Blanks. There was always a rotational in that spot down the front, and I think JPY and
that's right.
John Paul Young, John English, Trevor White, who I saw the other night, was on as well. So they sort of had semi-regulars on the panel, and I think the understanding with that is that people get used to
working with him
rather than just ad hoc. Let's bring in everybody. But once again, to get locked into a spot like that, I've got a bit of footage at home where I bought out, I think, the second album or something, and so he does the whole, "Ray, you've got a new album," and that's nationwide promotion that you couldn't buy. But he was very, he was a professional performer in that he would give you your time, and you knew if you worked with him when that time was up.
Was up.
Done enough.
Don't
Shut
push
up.
your luck.
Giving you a bit now. Yeah. But they were fantastic. To be able to have that exposure in that period of time on TV.
Fantastic. So we'll take a short break, and when we come back, I know that you did at least 3 albums, didn't you?
Yeah.
3 albums. We'll talk about your radio.
Okay.
And a very, very special girl in your life.
Okay, got lots.
We'll be back soon.
Wrokdown.
Welcome back to Wrokdown. We're with Ray Burgess, and we're having a lovely party, aren't we?
We are.
This is
all that
so good
reminiscing
to see you. You've done so much stuff. Actually, you've done so much television, so much recording, that we barely touched on all of the things that you've done, but you actually did complete at least 3 albums.
I did 2, and then they did a greatest hits off 2 albums. I'm not sure how you manage that, but you got to roll it over. And I did a few other singles that eventually, when we went digital, Sony took it all on board and compiled the whole lot, and that's sort of been in incarceration since. Now on iTunes and everywhere else.
At least it wasn't greatest hit.
No, well, I often used to use when I was working live, and I'd say I had my last album was a 12-inch album with an 11.5-inch hole, and here's Gloria. So, look, I mean, I look back and just think that all of that sort of stuff, you're just blessed. And I was asked the other day what in a, say, 40-year career was a highlight, and I just think it's the people that you worked with.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up on Daddy Cool, and my first album was produced by Ross Wilson. You know, I mean, and you just go,
How did that
how
happen?
does that
Yeah,
happen? How did I get here? You know.
I know. You're on radio at the moment.
Well, for about 12 months now in Sydney, I work for a community organisation that does all of that wonderful community work, which community organisations do, dummy. But it's called Pole Depot Community Centre, and they do carers and they do kids and all of those wonderful things that those people do. And I'd worked for a number of years in support mechanisms for long-term unemployed, and that led me to work there. And part of my role was to promote the centre. And I went to the local community station and said, can we get on here and talk about it? And the guy used to be at 2SM, that runs, Paul McGrath, that runs the station. He went, Ray, Paul, would you like to come on radio? And I'd never done it and didn't think much of it. And then he said, anything you want to do, anything you want to do. So what do I like most of all? I like playing and listening to Australian music. So I said, I'm just going to play Australian stuff.
Fantastic.
And he went, great. So that's what I've been doing. And I mean,
New stuff as well? Like
not so much, because the format of the station is 60s, 70s and leading into 80s, which was really just so much great material. But if new things come around, people give them to me. I recently, the Brewster Brothers did a Bob Dylan album.
Oh, okay.
It was fantastic. And so you could actually play that, talk to them about it and play something.
Or even like Caddy.
Exactly.
And
well,
Russell
Russell
Morris.
just done a new
I know.
one, so
Isn't it brilliant?
Do that. And I know that you know a lot of these guys, and when I can, I get them on the phone, we talk about it, play the stuff, what are you doing? You know, and I said to Daryl Cotton, mate, thank you so much for coming on the show. And he said, no, thank you. He said, because other people don't want to talk to us or play our stuff anymore.
That's not true.
You know?
That's not true, but
I understand
you
the
are
sentiment.
Supporting Australian artists, and that's what we try and do on this show as well.
Just because you don't
all about.
actually have a current hit per se, it doesn't mean that you're not being productive and not doing great shows, you know.
Absolutely. And speaking of, you were saying community radio, you are also now on the board of an organisation called Support Act. So congratulations, and are you the chairperson?
I'm the chairperson in New South Wales. And I was on the board for a short while Brian was having a sojourn
in Paris.
In Paris, and then he came back and said, bugger off.
He was just having a big long drink, really.
Really? He told me he worked extensively.
He did nothing.
Didn't he?
Now, look, just to wind up, this is a subject that I know that you'd probably be happy to talk about all day and all night, because we're going to talk about your beautiful daughter, Casey, who is now a part of High Five.
Yeah.
Or has been for over 12 months?
She's been in there now since 2006, I think.
Oh.
She took over from Charlie Delaney. I've got two beautiful daughters, but one chose to work and have children and have a lovely family. And Case has
And her name, your other daughter?
Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
And Case always had the music in her. And I think it's difficult to explain to people that don't have the music in you, and you would understand how that is, what it's like, you know. And when she was about 12, she did Annie in Sydney with Anthony Warlow, and they do it. The kids, one of the orphans, and they do a big number. And I said, "How is it? You're liking it, you know?" And she said, "When we hit the high note," she said, "it's like a light goes on inside, Dad."
Oh.
And I went, "You got it."
She loves it.
Yeah. And look, she works incredibly hard, and High Five is hard work.
Chip off the old block.
Better than me, hell.
Well, I've watched the show, and she's beautiful and very talented. So congratulations to the family and to you. And I want to say thank you very much for being on the show with us tonight.
It's great.
And in particular, good luck with Support Act.
Thank you.
Very important, Support Act. And we've got the website, which is www.supportact.com.au.
Become a member.
Become a member. Thank you so much. And I know that we haven't decided what film clip we're going out with yet.
Okay.
But I am sort of hoping that it'll be...
Oh, really?
So say good night, Ray.
Good night, Ray.
Good night, Ray.